guys, so the other day I had read the Harmonica to you, and so as you were reading, you were supposed to be filling out the annotations. So please make sure that you have those done, okay? I'm not going to spend any more time in this video going back and reviewing the annotations just because I've already read you the actual story. So today's lesson is going to be going through the actual question set. Okay, all right, so let's look at number 1. It says, answer the following questions using direct textual evidence from the book and using your annotations. How does the description of the narrator's family dancing in the kitchen contribute to the overall plot? Okay, so how did they describe the family and how did that contribute to the overall plot? Like, what did that tell us about the events that are unfolding? Okay, so A, it shows that they are dancers and enjoy spending time listening to music of their neighbors. B, it shows how close they are to one another and how strong their love for each other is. C, it shows that they are silly family trying to get through a very difficult time. D, introduces the conflict of the story. So right off the bat, it's not telling us any conflict. This is something that they do together. There's no problem. So I would say that's definitely not it. It shows they are a silly family trying to get through a very difficult time. I wouldn't necessarily call them silly. I think that that's something that they're enjoying, but they are trying to get through a difficult time. So I don't think that's it. B, it shows how close they were to one another and how strong their love for each other is. I definitely think that could be an answer. Let's look at A. It shows that they are dancers and they enjoy spending time listening to the music of their neighbors. Okay. So either one of these do make sense, but like, how does it contribute to the overall plot? So if you're thinking about the plot, the events that happen in the story, you learn that he really loves his family members. He loves his mom. He loves his dad. And he has a really difficult time when he goes into that concentration camp because he's taken away from them. And then he realizes that they haven't survived, right? So does them listening to the music and dancing like tell us more about the plot, or is B the one that's connecting all the events together? I definitely think it would be B. Okay. How would you describe the family's socioeconomic status? So, how this is to deal with money. Like, how much money do they have? Are they in the middle class, upper class, or are they stricken by poverty? Okay. So, how would you describe that? A, the family is blessed with many possessions, including the narrator's harmonica. Hold on, guys. Guys, you should be at lunch. Hey, you guys need to get some lunch. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so how does it relate to money? A, the family is blessed with many possessions, including the narrator's harmonica. B, the family is struggling to support one another in a time of hardship. C, the family is fortunate to not be affected by war raging outside of their apartment, or the family is living in poverty. So if you're looking at the pictures of the book, they don't have the best clothes, right? They're washing dishes by hand, which I mean was pretty typical by then. Okay, they don't have many possessions. You can see them kind of like hovering together with the windows open because they're listening to their neighbor's gramophone because they don't have one. And it even says that his dad works really long hours and comes home covered in the dust from the coal mine. So I definitely don't think that they have a lot of possessions. Okay. The family is struggling to support one another in a time of hardship, possibly. The family is fortunate to not be affected. Well, that's definitely not true because the Nazis figure out that they're hiding there or that they're Jews. They're not actually hiding, so they take them away. And the family is living in poverty during a time of war. Okay, so I would say the only reason that I'm going to choose D over B is because the mom isn't working, most likely. It doesn't even talk about that. It says that the dad is going and working in the minefield. So I would definitely say that the answer would be D. Okay. All right, let's look at 3. Which piece of text evidence supports your answer to question 2? So which one tells us that they're living in poverty during the time of war? A, we sang and we listened to the gramophone sweet notes and we lived our lives. I had dreams of music. Does that tell us anything about them being poor? No. For a time, the only music in our house was our own voices, my father's, my mother's, and mine, so off key that we could crack crockery. C, a piano was my heart's desire, a piano for playing Schubert. Or D, then the melodies of Schubert roared into our home, freed from the neighbor's gramophone. So which one tells you that they're living in poverty at the time? For a time, the only music in our house was our own voices. Okay, so that might be it because we know that they don't have a gramophone, right? The piano was my heart's desire piano. That doesn't necessarily tell us anything. Then the melodies of Schubert soared into our home, freed from our neighbor's gramophone. I definitely think it's between B or D. If you had to choose one, because there doesn't say evidences, right? Textual evidences, or pieces of text evidence, um, not evidences, pieces. It does not say that, right? Nope, it doesn't say that. So between these two, I think that D would be the correct answer because they have to use their neighbor's gramophone so that you know that they don't have one. So they have to open up their window and listen to something that their neighbors have and they don't have. So that's proving that they're living in a time of poverty during the war. All right, let's go on to 4. The character's reaction to playing for the commandant is stated in the following. I trembled like a hare crouched in a bush. Ooh, I trembled like a hare. First of all, that's a simile. That's kind of just a snippet. How's the narrator feeling during this, and why do you think he feels this way? So one thing that I really like to say is that you can use not only the text, but also you can use the pictures, right? So if I found that picture and I'm looking at it, you can really understand from his facial expressions what's going on, right? So it said, I stood before him, my hands numb with winter. What if I fumbled? What if I ran out of breath? What if the notes rushed from my head? Inside, I trembled like a hare crouched in a bush. I had no doubt if I faltered, I would be dead. Right? So how is he feeling? Let's use TTQA. The narrator is feeling scared because now you're in 6th grade. I want you to stop using basic words like scared. So if I simply went to like a dictionary or something like that and I typed in scared synonyms and I pulled it up, it gives me all of these different ones. Frightened, afraid, fearful, nervous, panicky, agitated, alarmed. So I really like the word frightened. So I'm going to cross out the word scared and put frightened. And the reason I'm showing you how to do that is so that you guys can use that skill on your own. The narrator is feeling frightened because he knows that if he messed up, the commandant would most likely kill him. Because remember, he's in a concentration camp. He doesn't have to keep him around, right? People are dying and being killed in Vienna. All right, so if you need some time to copy that down, go ahead and pause the video, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going, okay? All right, choose the best description of the narrator when he says, sometimes I played it to keep from losing hope. Well, first of all, I don't like vague pronouns. The word it is referring to his harmonica, okay? So sometimes I played the harmonica to keep from losing hope. So how is he feeling? Is he feeling angry, joyful, depressed, or hopeless, or confused? I think that there's a little bit of anger there. He's mad of what's going on, but I don't think that's why he picks up the harmonica. Joyful, definitely not. Definitely not confused. Depressed or hopeless. So the whole thing about playing the harmonica is that it takes him back to remembering the great times with his family, right? So I would definitely think, and it gives the other people hope, right? Or it gives them something to bring their spirits up. So I would definitely go with C. All right, let's go ahead and go on to number 6. So it says, select the best evidence that supports the description. So remember, we said that he was depressed or hopeless. So which one tells us this? All of us dull-eyed bags of bones, cold inside my pocket, inside I trembled like a hare crouched in a bush, or I wept when I thought of my mother and my father, or my father and my mother. So which one tells us that he's hopeless? Well, it's not It's not how he touches it. It's not describing them. And it's not when he's about to play for the commandant. So it's definitely D. I wept. The weeping tells us that he is sad or depressed or hopeless. 7. At what point does the story begin to change? We believe the world was to be good until there was a heart of Poland. Nazi soldiers found us. Each night when I was done, he tossed me bread. I cannot remember my father's face or my mother's. My father came home and slipped a silver gift into my hand. So each night he tossed me bread. So he's in the concentration camp at this point. Nothing changes. This happens every single night. Nothing changes because he can't remember his father and his mother's face. The thing that changes with this in the beginning is that he learns to play music, right? And it brings him happiness, but I don't think that it means overall change. So begin to change. I would definitely think that this is the first sign of conflict. Go ahead and write that in your notes. So what was the first sign of the conflict? Well, it's when the Nazi soldiers found them. So the answer would be A. Okay. All right. 8. What did the harmonica symbolize, the narrator? So remember, symbolize, Miss Spack did a lesson with you when you read those shoes, and symbolize represents something else, a deeper meaning, right? So what did the harmonica represent to the narrator? Use TTQA. Well, if you think about this, we already kind of talked about it. He plays it when he feels depressed or hopeless, right? So I think that the harmonica represent the love that he had for his family because his dad gave it to him. So whenever he's playing it, he thinks of them, right? And it even states in the text, right here, night after night I touched the harmonica to my lips. I thought of my father who had given it to me, of my mother who once had danced, and of prisoners without hope who might hear the notes and be lifted like flights of birds. I played for them with all of my heart. So to him, I think it represents joy. That's the only type of joy or love or affection that he's getting at that point. So I would say the harmonica symbolized many things to the narrator, such as love and tenderness. And I'm going to put in parentheses his parents, because that's symbolizing to you the connection, right? Comma, hope for the prisoners, comma, and I would also say light or memories or fondness that kind of connects back to his parents. But it also represents survival. It's a way for him to survive, right? He's playing for the guy that is the one that's torturing them. And what does he do? He gives him bread. So, and a chance of survival. So it symbolizes a lot of different things. Okay. All right. Go ahead and pause this video if you need to write this down, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. So hit play when you're ready. All right. Number 9 says, I'm going to fold it so you can see it all. It's the only bad thing about this camera. Why does the story include the following part of the plot? I felt sick, black inside, playing music for the commandant, who wore ugliness and death upon his shoulders like epaulets. Okay. A, it shows the cruelty that the Nazis put the prisoners through. B, it builds suspense on whether or not the narrator will survive. C, it introduces a new conflict that the narrator has within himself. D, it concludes the conflict and shows how the narrator is moving out of the dangerous situation. Well, right off the bat, we know it's not D. He never gets out of the dangerous situation. Okay. Him playing it for the commandant does not show the cruelty. It builds suspense on whether or not the narrator will survive or introduces a new conflict the narrator has within himself. In the book, it even says that he hates, let me see if I can find it. Right here. I despise myself for every note, every harmonica breath, until one day a whisper grazed my ear. So he despises himself. He hates the fact that he's getting the bread and nobody else does. So I definitely think that the answer would be C. Okay. How did the narrator impact the other prisoners? Use clear. So I'm going to do clear down the side. And I need to start with my claim, right? So the narrator impacted the prisoners by giving them hope when there was none. So that's my C. Now I have to give an a lead-in phrase, okay? And in the directions of this packet, it said direct evidence. So we're going to do a quote. I know we talked about paraphrasing this week, but we're not paraphrasing, okay? So we can put in the story, it states, that's going to be my lead-in phrase. I have to put that comma there in the beginning of quotation marks because I'm giving a direct quote. So there's my lead-in phrase. It says, bless you for what? I asked the dark Schubert. Okay. I could use that one. Or I kind of like this one better. Let's see if you guys can see it. Right here where it says, and of prisoners without hope who might hear the notes and be lifted like flights of birds. I think I'm gonna use that one. I like that one better. Okay. And of prisoners without hope who might hear the notes and be lifted like flights of birds. Now, punctuation goes inside of the direct quote. So period, end of punctuation. So that's my evidence. Why is this evidence important? This is the part that you guys are really struggling with. Why did I choose this quote to prove that it's giving them hope, right? Right here it says, who might hear the notes and be lifted like flights of birds. So this is significant because when he plays the notes, prisoners around him are able, and then comma, I'm going to add a non-restrictive element here, even for only a moment, to forget where they are and lose themselves in the enjoyment of the music. That's why it's important. Okay, so that's my explanation. Then I have to do my R, restate the claim. Okay, this is how the narrator gives them hope and lifts their spirits. Okay, go ahead and pause this video if you need time to write this, but I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one so you could press play when you're done. Okay? All right. 11. How does the excerpt contribute to the development of the setting? Setting is the time and the place or the environment. I was sent to a concentration camp, swallowed, dreams and all, down the dark Nazi throat. Barefoot, I labored alongside others, all of us dull-eye bags of bones, digging a road through snow. Okay, so how does that contribute to the setting? By showing it was a thrilling time away from his parents, by showing it was a time of turmoil and hardship, by showing it is a dangerous location where the narrator is challenged by fate by showing a new conflict within himself to continue to never give up or never give up hope. So I don't think it's thrilling, and I don't think it's a new conflict. So dangerous location, I would say yes, where the narrator is challenged by fate. I don't think that he's challenged by his destiny here, but I do think that it's showing it was a time of turmoil and hardship because he had to do those hard things in the winter, right? So the answer would be B. So then the last question says to write a short summary of the harmonica below. So we know that we need to have the hook, the title, some background info. This kind of sounded like an introduction, right? This would be your exposition. Okay. Hook, title, background, fish, exposition, 3 main events. Okay. And then the last one would be the conclusion. And we want to kind of add in the terms that you guys have learned over plot, like exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So we're going to go ahead and write this together. So the very first thing that I want to do is create a hook. Okay. So our hook is asking a question that's related to the book. So maybe we could say something like, have you ever been separated from your family just because of your beliefs? And I would hope you would say no. Okay, so that's my hook. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this as we go because I know that we're done with it. So now I want to do the title and background information. So I could say something like the exposition in the book, because I want to use those terms. In the book, the harmonica. And I'm going to underline it because it's a book title. Okay. And the exposition in the book, the harmonica, let's put quotes around, or not quotes, comments around there because that's added information, begins with a young boy enjoying dancing and singing with his parents. Okay, then you can say the conflict is then introduced after the Nazi troops discovered his family and took them to separate concentration. Ooh, my hand. Camps. Okay, so right off the bat, I gave you title, background information, exposition, and I'm going into my 3 main events, right? So then I could say, leading up to the climax, the little boy holds on to his harmonica, finds some hope when playing, but is challenged mentally when he feels his parents death. I would say feels his parents' death. He actually doesn't like feel it touching wise, but he just knows deep in his heart that it happens, right? So that would be the rising action. So now let's go to the climax. Everything changes when an officer demands him to play for the officer's enjoyment. This makes the narrator hate himself because he is able to survive off the bread given to him from playing. He then realizes, and I'm going to go ahead and fold this. I'll put it back up. Don't worry. He then realizes that playing actually brings hope to other prisoners. Okay? The conflict is never really resolved, but the story ends with him playing and remembering his parents. Okay? All right, so let's go through this because I want to point out all the major things that I think that you should have in a summary. Okay? And you can take out your highlighter or you can underline it if you don't have a highlighter and do that as well. So I'm going to highlight the different keywords or terms. So the exposition. So have you ever been separated from your family just because of your beliefs? The exposition of the book, The Harmonica, make sure you have a title, begins with a young boy enjoying dancing and singing with his parents. The conflict is then introduced after the Nazi troops discovered his family and took them to separate concentration camps. Leading up to the climax, these are our transitions, the little boy holds on to his harmonica. Onto is one word. His harmonica, finds some hope when playing, but is challenged mentally when he feels his parents' death. Everything changes, we're going into the conflict, when an officer demands him to play for the officer's enjoyment. This makes the narrator hate himself because he is able to survive off the bread given to him from playing. He then realizes that playing actually brings hope to other prisoners. Hope. The conflict is never really resolved, but the story ends with him playing and remembering his parents. Okay? So that's what a summary should look like. Make sense? Go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to take the time and write this summary. This was a great job, guys. Put this into your reading section of your binder.